February 15th, 2017, Wednesday of the 6th week in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the book of Genesis. At the end of 40 days, Noah opened the hatch he had made in the ark, and he sent out a raven to see if the waters had lessened on the earth. It flew back and forth until the waters dried off from the earth. Then he sent out a dove to see if the waters had lessened on the earth. But the dove could find no place to alight and perch, and it returned to him in the ark, for there was water all over the earth. Putting out his hand, he caught the dove and drew it back to him inside the ark. He waited 7 days more and again sent the dove out from the ark. In the evening, the dove came back to him, and there in its bill was a plucked off olive leaf. So Noah knew that the waters had lessened on the earth. He waited still another 7 days and then released the dove once more, and this time it did not come back. In the 601st year of Noah's life, in the first month, on the first day of the month, the water began to dry up on the earth. Noah then removed the covering of the ark and saw that the surface of the ground was drying up. Noah built an altar to the Lord, and choosing from every clean animal and every clean bird, he offered burnt offerings on the altar. When the Lord smelled the sweet odor, he said to himself, "Never again will I doom the earth because of man, since the desires of man's heart are evil from the start. Nor will I ever again strike down all living beings as I have done. As long as the earth lasts, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease." The word of the Lord.
Responsorial Psalm. The response is, "To you, Lord, I will offer a sacrifice of praise. How shall I make a return to the Lord for all the good he has done for me? The cup of salvation I will take up, and I will call upon the name of the Lord. To you, Lord, I will offer a sacrifice of praise. My vows to the Lord I will pay in the presence of all his people. Precious in the eyes of the Lord is the death of his faithful ones. To you, Lord, I will offer a sacrifice of praise. My vows to the Lord I will pay in the presence of all his people, in the courts of the house of the Lord, in your midst, O Jerusalem. To you, Lord, I will offer a sacrifice of praise."
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. When Jesus and his disciples arrived at Bethsaida, people brought to him a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. Putting spittle on his eyes, he laid his hands on the man and asked, "Do you see anything?" Looking up, the man replied, "I see people looking like trees and walking." Then he laid hands on the man's eyes a second time, and he saw clearly. His sight was restored, and he could see everything distinctly. Then he sent him home and said, "Do not even go into the village." The Gospel of the Lord.
February 15th, Wednesday of the 6th week in Ordinary Time. The first reading comes from Genesis 8, 6-13, and 20-22. God has caused a flood to come upon the earth to punish the sinfulness of humanity. He saved Noah and his family. Noah built an ark, bringing animals on the ark, and now the flood is coming to an end. Noah first of all sends out a raven to see if there's any safe place upon the earth, but it comes back. Sends out a dove, it comes back, but eventually he sends out a dove, and it brings back a little plucked off olive leaf, a sign that the flood has ended, there's safe ground. So Noah and his family get out of the ark, and one of the first things they do is they offer a sacrifice. Now, this is very similar to the flood story contained in Babylonian literature, but it's also very different. Both of those who were saved in these stories, in the Hebrew story and the Babylonian story, offer a sacrifice. But in Noah's story, the Hebrew story, God smells the sweet odor and is pleased. In the Babylonian story, the pagan gods gather around the sacrifice like hungry flies. They are dependent upon the sacrifices for something to eat, because humanity in those stories was created to feed the gods. In the Hebrew story, God decides that he'll never punish the earth again by sending a flood upon it. And in fact, he'll give a sign of his promise, the rainbow. It's a sign in the heavens of God's promise never to destroy the earth by flood. This is a sign of mercy because he realizes that human hearts are wicked from their birth. Nevertheless, God will be compassionate, he'll be merciful. He'll recognize our brokenness and not punish us for that. The Gospel is from Mark 8, 22 to 26. This is a story of how Jesus heals a man who's blind. The first intervention, the man sees a bit, but he sees people like walking trees. Now, if the man was blind, how does he know what walking trees look like? The story doesn't say that the man was blind since birth, so the man might have lost his sight. Why does it take a second intervention for this man to be able to see? It seems as if this story was about a true incident in the life of Jesus, but it's also a symbolic miracle, which tells us about the faith of the disciples. Because in fact, right after this, we'll have a question, who do people say that I am? What is the faith of the disciples? When they first came to Jesus, they thought they saw clearly, but their vision was distorted. It's only at a second moment, at the cross, that they come to understand what Jesus is saying, that he calls us all to die to ourselves so that we might live for him. Up to that point, they consider Jesus to be a wonder worker, somebody who will solve all their problems. After that, they realize that the call is not for their benefit, but for their sacrifice, that they die to themselves out of love for Jesus. And may God bless us.